start to implement the features that we have for our custom e-commerce web portal. So the first feature that we will be implementing will be the registration and then the assigning of the default permissions for the admin. So let's start with the backend part first. So for the backend part, or basically generally the technologies and practices that I will be using will be first is the command query responsibility segregation, Dapper for querying the database, the entity framework core for the creating, deleting, and updating for the data, and then Postman for testing our backend to make sure that things are working. And then for the front end, I will be using the Angular framework 21. And of course, for the database part, I will be using the SQL Server hosted via a Docker instance. So just to give an idea for the CQRS, so basically um, that pattern has basically two parts, which is the commands and then the queries. So basically for the commands, we will use that for posting, deleting, and updating of data within our database. And then the querying part will be the data retrieval. Okay. So basically, I used this pattern here because I wanted to separate the reads and then the writes. Okay. So let's start with the overview or the actual implementation. So okay, so we have now here our bad command handler or the bad company command handler. So basically, this file contains the actual logic for our adding of company and the parts here. So we do have this command handler, which is then again which contains the logic for the specific command, and then we also have the add company command which contains the payload, and then we have this add company command validator, which contains the validation or like the data checking for the requests to make sure that the data being passed from the front end are being checked properly. And then we have this the the user repository for the actual database interaction for the um, feature being implemented. So let's go back to the command handler. So for this one here, so basically what I did here was first is to um, map the bad company command requests to the bad company model here. And then for this one here in line 41, so basically what I did here was basically save the company information with to the database, and this is the implementation for this one here. Basically just passing the company entity and then saving it within our database. Then this method returns a tuple value with the ID and then the boolean value of true to indicate that the saving was successful. And then here I used to check the the return value for the save company method just so we know that um whenever that the value for the save here will be false. So basically that means that the logic for saving the company has failed. And whenever this condition here matches, so basically this will return a message from the payload which contains the message error saving company. But otherwise, if the saving of company information is successful, so what will happen now is to um, proceed with the retrieval for the default permissions to assign it to the company, which is this one here. Basically, this is the default permissions that is being assigned to a company whenever they register. So we have the employee, the permissions, the supplier, stocks, and purchase request, and then going back here. So basically, just looping the default permission and then saving it within the this one here, the default permissions list variable, just to save the permissions from the settings file, and then saving it here within the save permissions method. So after basically saving the default permissions for the company, then what it will do next will be to basically map the request containing the actual user information, like what we have here. And then the next would be if I use a the default password hasher let's say library from the .NET to hash the password like what we have here, and then mapping the user model with the actual user entity, and then setting the company, the date created, then the admin value. So basically, for this logic here, all companies that registered with a user, so by default they are the admin for that account. And then within this line here, I saved the user data that was passed within like the previous lines to the database. Then again, it will be returning a tuple value which contains the ID and then a boolean value of true if the saving of data is successful. And then for this next line here, the same logic that we did with the saving for the company. So by just I just validated when if the saving of the user data was not successful, so the logic will be to return a message by indicating that there was a error in saving the user. And then if ever that this is false, so we will now be returning the success message, which contains the message of new company save with a um, status code of okay, and then a value of true for the success. Okay, so let's try to test the logic here before showing you the front end integration. So let's start to debug, and then we'll just wait for the browser to launch. Okay, and then let's just first check if we have data. Okay, so now we will start to send um, or test our backend. So we will be using this one here. Okay, so for this one here, so for the testing, we will be first trying to validate like what our command validator that we have here. So basically, for testing this one here, sorry, excuse me. So for testing here, we need to send like a various like maybe null within the data or malformed data, just to ensure that our validator here, like the ad company validator here, is properly checking or basically sanitizing the data, because within this payload, so we have this contact number, right? Specifically this one. So basically, as you can see here, this has a custom logic that is being implemented, which is whenever we are trying to save a contact number, So contact numbers has formats, right? Like specific per country. So for us, what I did here was to first is validate whether the input payload for this contact number property is or are numbers, but otherwise, if not, they will fail because obviously no, contact numbers are numbers that, and not letters. So basically, that's the logic here. So checking whether the phone number pass matches the our pattern here for the for the regex. Then whenever that the pattern does not match, so we will have a custom message here which contains that the contact number passed is not valid. And specifically, the number should start with 09. Mhm. Okay, so let's go back to Postman for testing. Okay, so here, so first is we will try to send a um, null or white space value for the payload just to check whether the logic works. Okay, so for now, let's try to click send. And then, as what you can see here, we can confirm that the validator that we have is working. Like it's validating like the name, email, the owner, the address, password, length of password, and then the contact info are invalid because obviously the payload contains no data. So let's try to put some test data. So let's say for the name, let's try to put test company one, and then let's try to send it, and then notice whenever this name here will be gone. So let's try to click send. So yeah, so basically the validation works, and then since we already have the name here, we can see that within like the errors here, the name disappeared. So meaning our command validator worked for that field. So let's continue. Now we enter a test company one address. And again, let's try to send it. And then same, it works. And then for this contact number, let's just skip this for now and let's just proceed with the other fields and we'll just go back with this. So for the owner, let's just say test owner one. Sorry, test owner one. Okay, that works. And then for the email, let's just say test, or let's say test company one. So basically, for the email here, since um, we had a within our validator, since we indicated that the email should be a valid email address, and then here we had a payload here, but notice that we have this error message here which contains the email is not valid. Why? Because we just entered here a text, but we did not somehow like specify like the provider or basically like the part where it says the like the at and then the provider name like example gmail.com or like yahoo.com or like whatever provider that you have. So let's try this one. Yep. So the email validator works because what we have here is is uh is a not complete email. So let's try to add more. Let's say gmail.com. Then yeah, that works. Then for the password, let's put like this one here. It works. So now, okay. So now we can see that the other properties are being validated correctly. So let's try to test this contact number. Okay, so for this one here, what we have within our validator for this one here, so technically this regex here, so this basically validates just numbers and not letters, and the contact number should start with 09. Okay, so let's try to check that logic. So first is we'll test like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So the output for this one here should be invalid because the number starts with 1, 2 and not 09. So let's try it. As you can see, the validator logic worked. And then for example, whenever we put here 0 and then we try to add a let's say special character, so still this should not work. Valid here. And whenever we put it back to, let's say, a letter and we change this to 09, and for this one here, this should also not work. So same. And why? Because since the number starts with 0 1 sorry 09, but it has a letter here, so our logic validated it incorrectly since it has a letter here. So let's try to change this with a number. So basically, these now should work fine. So we press now send, and now we can confirm that our validator is correctly sanitizing the data before processing it. So we have now here the result, which is the test company one, test company address, the phone number, the test owner one, the test company one, and of course, we did not send the password because it's confidential. Okay, so since we confirmed that our backend is working, let's check the database. Okay, so now we have for the company, we have the test company. And then for the permission, so basically these are the default permissions that is being paired with the registering company. And then for the user, since we are registering a company, so basically that default user will be an admin. So we have here. So basically, we can now confirm that the backend API is working. So let us now proceed with the front end. Okay. So for this one here, okay. So for the front end, let me first show you the of course the component. Okay, so for this front end project, what I did was basically use a template just to make things much more faster. So to proceed, okay, so basically this is the side register component. So this is like the form that we have, which has the name, the address, the contact number, the owner, the email, the password, and so on and so forth. And for the TypeScript file, so we have created various service files, which are the account service, the prompt service, the form, which we use in our form here, like this one here, and then a constructor, and then uh, basically we loaded the um the registration form for the company here, which we can see like this company registration method, which is this one here, having the name, the address, contact number, owner, email, password. And also the actual implementation for the submit method, which is here. So this submit will be basically the method which will trigger whenever we click this registration button here. So going back here, so what I did here was just to um, set the errors to null. So basically, the error here, this comes from the error that the error this comes from the web API, which will which we will see later. And then we have this um, let payload variable here, which contains the form values. As you can see here, the name, address, contact number, the owner, the email, the password. And then we have here the actual call to the account service register company. So that, let's check the implementation. So for this one here, so basically this register company method within the account service class, these basically has a parameter of the payload, which is which is the actual data that we send from the form, and for the URL or the web API endpoint pointing to. So like we have this one here, and then basically a post request containing the URL, the payload, and then the headers. This one here, and then um, we call that method here, and basically just perform um, the integration, and then whenever that the call was successful, so we have um, two statements here which confirms and not confirms the success of the request. So the first one will be if the request was successful, which contains the success value of true, and then the status code of 200. So that indicates that we have successfully integrated the company registration with the backend. And then what will happen next will be the form will be empty or reset, and then there will be a prompt um, containing the message uh, containing the successful message from the API. And otherwise, if the success value will be false, and then the status code will be 400. So so basically, what happens here? This will display the errors from the backend, and whenever that there's this real server error from the backend still. So this one here basically handles it, and then the errors will be displayed in the error variable which we have here. This one here. Okay, so let's try to run this so that you can see the what it looks like. Yeah, let's just wait for a while, and then yeah. So let's try to run it. Look. Okay, so by default, we have here the login. So we just click the create an account, and yeah, so now we have here. So let's do a testing here, same with what we did with the postman. So basically, sending a like null values or no values at all. So when we click register, so basically it should contain the errors. So let's try it. So yeah, here. So what we have here now, when we click this button here without any payload at all, so we see that the same similar happen with what we had in the postman, we have here the errors from our backend. So the name must not be empty. Same with the email, the owner, address. So let's try to fill this out. Um, oh, sorry. Wait. Okay. So let's try to fill that out. So let's just say test company 2. Let's try to submit it. Okay, so we noticed that when we filled up the name of the company, the the error here uh, for the company was already solved. And then let's try test company to address, and then the address here was gone. And for this contact number, let's then again skip this for later. So test owner 2, the owner was gone here. Uh, test, what was that again? Okay, test company 2 at email is not, the email is not valid, which is yes, it's not. Let's complete it. Then the password, register. Okay. So now for the contact number, let's try what we did within Postman. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. So this should not be valid. Good. And if we put here a character, still not valid. Good. Let's start with like 0 and then 2. Again, this should not be valid, which is correct. But whenever we start with 09, then this should be saved. Yep, it's okay. So we just saw the prompt here, which mentioned new company save. So to confirm that, let's go back within the database and then so yeah, the logic that we have in the back end and the front end when we integrated the source code. So now it's showing here in the database and like the test company 2, the permissions here, like the default permissions here, and the test company 2 for the user. So yes, so basically we have successfully implemented our um, company registration and the assigning of the default permissions both for the web API and then the front end web. So yeah, we now have completed our first feature, which is the company registration, and as you can see, this now works. So for the next video, we will be implementing the company login and yeah, stay tuned. Thank you.